So I believe that there is no more powerful content strategy an MSP can use than what I'm about to share with you. And this is because it speaks to a major showstopper for a prospect to want to engage with you. And any MSP who does this is going to absolutely crush it. So this is specifically targeted to a prospect who doesn't yet know you at all, or doesn't know you well enough to make an appointment with you. Now, for a moment here, I want you to put yourself in your client's shoes. If you're the client, you probably have every IT provider trying to get your attention, right? Just like maybe they have every marketing company trying to get their attention, SEO companies. There's all sorts of companies out there trying to sell to them. Just like you as an MSP have companies like mine trying to get your attention, right? If you're an MSP, I'm trying to sell you on audit. You can believe that, right? Every business has other businesses trying to get their attention so that they can sell them stuff. Now, as the prospect, what do you do with all these ads and emails and phone calls that you're inundated with all day? What do you do when you walk down the hallways of your MSP event that you go to? We just came back from Connect IT, and I can tell you what most of you do. You ignore the vendors, right? We ignore them. I ignore vendors all the time. You do. We all do. That's what everyone does. That's why getting attention is so hard, right? If this was easy, everybody would be booked solid with appointments, but it's not. You really have to be consistent. You have to be persistent, and you have to oftentimes just be in the right place at the right time. We all have our guards up when we know that someone may be trying to sell us, right? Now, once you get their attention, maybe you're really good at writing headlines and you get attention, no problem. Once you get that attention, you have seconds to prove that you're not a waste of their time. And for MSPs, there's one very big reason that your prospects will ignore you. And that is on top of the reason I just covered, right? So you already, as just a person out there trying to sell yourself and sell your business, have the hurdle of that they are automatically trying to ignore you. Another hurdle for MSPs, and it's the hurdle that this strategy is going to get and help you with. It's the biggest hurdle that you're going to face, in my opinion. MSPs cannot break through to many prospects because of what I like to call TCIF, or technical confusion intimidation factor. Technology is over their head. Most non-technical people are intimidated by you and what you say and what you do. Now, let's face it. Not knowing and understanding something makes it scary. And when something is over our heads, the natural human reaction is avoidance. The more technically confusing something is, and everything has a technical component to it, just MSPs happen to be, their technical component happens to be technology, makes it really, really hard. People's minds, our brains are wired to look for shortcuts. We want to understand things. We want to see things simple. And when it's confusing to us, we put our guard up, right? I know, and I'm a non-technical person. I know I talk to technical people all the time for a living, and I'm still confused when I talk to a lot of technology providers. When they start getting into the tech, it's way over my head. And a lot of times I don't say anything, and that's a normal human reaction because I don't want to make myself look stupid. That's what your prospects are thinking. That's what your customers are thinking. If you're talking over their heads, they're not going to stop you. Most of them, I'd say 99.9% of them aren't going to stop you and go, I'm really confused by what you said. Can you re-explain it in a simpler way? They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to nod at you and look at you, and they're thinking in their head of something else. They're thinking about what they're going to do when you're out of their office, or they're thinking, God, I'm never going to make an appointment with this person again because he's too confusing. And it makes them feel stupid. And they, in their mind, they're thinking, should I know this? Should I understand this? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's not them. So they're not going to tell you. They're just going to be looking at you, right? And you think they're listening, but they're really not. Think about it for a moment. They're already avoiding you. Your prospects are already avoiding you because they are in a prospect customer dance with you. They know that you're just there fishing for food. You're hunting, right? You're hunting for a sale. So they already have that trust issue, right? They don't trust you and they're avoiding you. But maybe something in your ad attracts them. But as they read down in that ad, in that piece of content, in whatever you're putting out into the world, in your presentation when you're presenting to them. Something's confusing and something's intimidating, and their attention is gone and you can't get it back. They may even want to change IT providers. I can't tell you how many business connections that I've had over the years who didn't like their current IT guy. I talk to them, and I still I have tons of business connections from my former life as a marketing person and a martial arts school owner. And I know that everybody's confused by tech. Every business is confused by it. And a lot of times I talk to these people who own businesses like bookkeeping and, or an insurance company. They're like, I don't know what my IT guy does for me. I'm not sure if he's doing their job. And it's just too confusing. They'd love to switch, but they stick with him or her because they're the devil they know. I mean, hey, they're confused by him or her. They assume that someone else may be worse. So they stay with that person, even though they don't trust them, even though they want to switch, even though they don't like them or whatever the issue is. Now, I'm willing to bet there are more businesses than you could onboard right now who would love to switch providers, but they won't even give you a look. It's because of those reasons. The number one reason is their guard is up anyway. The number two reason, if you get past that you have to overcome, is that it's confusing. The technology is confusing to them. One of the most refreshing things to an SMB, I promise you this, is when a technical person explains things in a simple way that they can understand. And even more, when they connect the dots from tech to business impact. This is really what SMBs want to know, right? Nobody wants to be taught, give a doctoral thesis on technology. What they want is, how does this stuff impact my business? How will it help my bottom line? How will it help me grow? What does it mean from a business standpoint? And if you create focused content, video, audio, written, however you create content, I hope you do all of the above because you can reach people on different platforms. If you create focused content on exactly how you do this, how you make tech simple so that they can see how it impacts their business, you're going to win more prospects. You're going to get more appointments and you're going to get more customers, and you're going to get paid better for it, because MSPs who solve problems that impact a business just are a ton more valuable than the MSPs trying to sell some technical, confusing widget. So share what you do to unconfuse tech in your content. Preach the gospel of demystifying the tech and the geek speak, turning it into simple, easy to understand presentations that get to the business impact. Now, you have to own that. So the first step before you start creating content is you have to make a concerted effort to be simple, to make sure that everything you communicate is simple. Become the celebrity in the area that's the only one who does this. You'll be the only MSP who does this. And then you broadcast that you do this, right? And I want you to think about for a moment, so shows out there like Bill Nye, the Science Guy, comes to mind. He takes, and there's other shows like this where they demystify something very technical, right? Bill Nye shows you in plain English what these things do, and he explains it in a way that anybody can understand, right? He breaks it down, and there's other shows like that. The names escape me, but there's very popular shows where the hosts demystify something and break it down so that anybody can understand it. You will be a celebrity, be the Bill Nye of your area, but you have to first commit to making sure that you do speak that way. And I can tell you, most MSPs don't realize how technical they talk. They just don't. I talk to MSPs all the time. I talk to technical people over the years. As a marketing person, I have been on a mission to help. That's why I ended up at Audit, to help people who are in a business be able to communicate better to their prospects. And it always comes down to simplifying. And it's amazing how hard that is. It is really hard. You have to really work. I mean, the first step is admitting that the stuff you're talking about is confusing. There's 3 stages to me. There's the stage where people don't care that they're being technical. There are MSPs out there, maybe you're one of them, who is technical by nature, and they do not care. They want the person to know how smart they are. They want to impress the person. And those are the ones in the worst position to sell stuff and to upsell stuff and to make a lot of money, because it's harder to sell when it's more confusing. I promise you that. Then there's the middle, which are MSPs who realize that tech talk and geek speak is confusing. So they make an effort to get it out of there and even think that they've removed it. But I can tell you, in that chunk, there are people who think they are speaking simply and presenting simply, and they aren't. They don't know what they don't know. And again, your prospect and client's not going to lean in and tell you that you're so confusing to me. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to make you think they are. But your numbers should tell you the truth. Your numbers should tell you the truth. If you're not closing all the sales you can, and you're not upselling easily, right? You're not able to roll out new technology to your entire client base without you even having to tell them, because you've built up that process where they understand what you're saying and they understand the importance. And now you've earned the ability to kind of get some new cybersecurity tool that's really important and just roll it out to all your clients and then show them in the presentation, next month or the month after that you did it, and they're not going to complain. If you can't do that stuff and you're not closing at a very high price, selling premium services, selling complete services, not just selling widgets, then it's probably because you're talking that way. You're talking too much geek speak, too much technical. I promise you that. Get to the problem or problems affecting productivity, growth, and bottom line. Speak simple, speak to the business impact, and you're going to win. So the first step, again, is owning that and putting your money where your mouth is, right? Talking simply. Then the second part of it is focus your content on talking up how tech shouldn't be confusing, right? I would be the one IT company around that's dedicated to simplifying IT so non-technical business can easily understand the confusing tech. I would be the anti-technician. I would recommend you be the anti-technician. Everybody looks for that unique selling proposition, right? Everybody thinks, and everybody's USP is exactly the same. I talk to everybody, all sorts of people. They think we provide top level IT services. We provide really state of the art. Everybody says the same thing. Instead of that, because it's already assumed that you're the expert. If somebody is interested in reading more about you, learning more about you, making an appointment with you, they already assume you're the expert. That is not a unique selling proposition that you're an expert. What is a unique selling proposition is that you're the only MSP on the planet who demystifies. You're the Bill Nye, the celebrity of MSPs, who talk simple and make it easy for them to understand. You're the anti-technician. If I was an MSP, that's a big section of my content that I'd devote time to. And here is how I would do it. So I'd make sure that my prospects knew I'm the only MSP that they'll find in 500 miles who doesn't speak in ones and zeros. I would have that all over my website. I would be marketing that. I would be branding myself as the guy who is the super Bill Nye Guy, right? The guy who explains this easily. I'd preach how important it is for a business owner to totally and completely understand every piece of their IT environment, and that I'd educate them through my content on things like cybersecurity, business continuity, difference between cloud and on-prem, et cetera, et cetera. But I would explain these things in plain and simple English. I would talk to them like they were in the 7th grade, right? Not because I'm trying to speak down to anybody, but because our minds are wired for simplicity, right? When you talk to somebody like 7th grader, when you go out of your way to make sure you're speaking at that level, you're actually speaking more intelligently because they can understand you and they're comprehending, right? And I'm talking about 7th graders from when I was a kid, not 7th graders now who are born with technology in their hands. I'd make myself the local guy who makes IT completely simple and unintimidating, because that's the barrier for getting through, is that this stuff is intimidating. So I would be the guy who's unintimidating it. I'd be posting all day on social media how tech shouldn't be confusing, and that if you're even remotely confused by your current provider, I can come in and do a third-party audit on them, right? I'd sell that as a checkup to unconfuse their IT, to unpack what's happening in their environment and make sure that they're getting what they're paying for. I'd assure them that their MSP won't even know that I was there, because we're talking about business needs. We're not coming in and running scans on their network. We don't need to do that, right? We're not getting into systems that we shouldn't be in until they're a client that might trigger their IT guy to know what's happening. So their IT provider would never know we were there. Then when I meet with them, I'd put my money where my mouth was, and I'd have a conversation about their business needs. I'd understand what their problems are. Of course, I'm looking through their technology. I'm looking at things, but I'm doing it the old fashioned way. I'm asking questions. I'm looking with my eyes. I'm walking around their environment. I'm trying to get to know everything and how it connects to their business, what their pains are, what their problems are. What are they trying to do? How are they trying to grow? Then I'd go over my audit report, right? And I'd wow them by keeping it so simple, so business needs focused, so emotionally impactful. And I can promise you, they'd tell me how no one has ever shown it to them like this, because that's what audit clients say all the time. They call me amazed. They're like, my client, my prospect leaned in and they couldn't believe how simple it was. They're like, wow, this is easy to understand. Thank you. And the other MSP, the incumbent MSP, would be gone, even if I was more money, because that's what happens. So focus content on how you speak their language. Do that and you're going to own your